welcome again everybody. The people that have seen me this morning, you'll see a little bit of the same stuff that we had on this morning, but a little bit of new stuff as well. So just to fill you in where I fit into the whole system today, I'm General Manager of Carwell the Pastoral Company. We're a mixed grazing business based mainly around Bungendore, Queanbeyan area. I have 5 properties under my management, about 6,000 hectares in total, 1,000 odd Angus cows in our breeding herd, about 8,000 first cross ewes. So we're feeding, supplying feeder cattle to domestic feedlots, and we're also putting fat lambs through the likes of Coles and the store market. Our properties range in size, obviously, from quite small to reasonably large. They're not all together, so we've undertaken this route towards digital technology to try and enhance our management and improve the situation within all those properties. So here's a little, an interesting little video for you all to have a quick look at.
A dairy cow that talks to farmers. What kind of sorcery is that? It's not the magic wand kind. It's the RFID collar and Internet of Things kind we created with Chidley Dairy. So every cow can let farmers know how she feels and what she needs to be healthier. All with a simple text. Ta-da! Magic can't make digital transformation happen, but we can. That's the power of VMware, part of Dell Technologies.
Talk to me anyway. But in the real world, across the rest of our business, we need some help to understand where we're going and what we're doing. You all have a sheet as is on the screen there now, if you wanted to have a quick look at that. This is simply a list of the solutions that have been installed across our business in the last 2 or 3 months. We have monitors for troughs and tanks and dams, weather stations and rain gauges. We have diesel tank monitors, soil probes, sheep and cattle tags, some smarter than others, gate and cattle ramp monitors. We have some digital mapping, electric fence monitors, smoke alarms and shed condition monitors, vehicle and asset tracking, farm management software, apiary devices, drone technology, cattle heat detection, silo level monitors and animal handling systems. Now there are probably a few things on the list that I've forgotten. We've installed a lot and continue to install as we go along, but we're not quite there yet. Of the 150 plus suppliers that were approached, that were asked to prove to MLA and industry in general that we're starting to get to that point where we are digitally advanced, only 20 have showed up, which I find a little interesting personally, but I guess not everyone's in a position to A, supply what they say they can, or B, in a position to contribute at a particular time. Some of the people that have turned up have actually gone away again when devices weren't quite ready, or the challenge of putting them into a commercial farming situation's proven a little bit too hard. So what are we missing? For 20 odd years we've been seeing in the media that this stuff's out there, virtual fencing and walk-through weighing and all sorts of things. And when I started this journey with Sean, we put together a bit of a wish list of the things that maybe we'd like to see that perhaps on cutting edge, but have been promoted as being out there. And they included a walk-through weighing systems, smart sheep and cattle tags that we're seeing constantly promoted in the media, virtual fencing systems, autonomous systems for livestock businesses, advanced feeding systems, electronic vehicles, or electric vehicles at least, and any advanced irrigation systems that would enhance our centre pivot operation within our own business. Unfortunately, some of those didn't turn up, and probably are some way away. but what we did find amongst all of the things that were installed or that we were approached to install is that it's not just as simple as going and buying something off the shelf. There's quite a bit of infrastructure that needs to go in with the devices, and a lot of stuff in the back of house that needs to be done to make the data meaningful to you when you do receive that data. There's hidden costs potentially about your monthly or annual fees around communications and so forth. There's infrastructure costs to protect the devices in some cases, depending on what the installation is. So it's not necessarily a cheap option to go and install digital tech on your farms, but if you choose the correct direction and you choose the correct devices, the money would appear to be well spent. Oop, go back one. So there were many different approaches applied in installation and simply in the type of materials that the installers were using. They came on site, they looked at where we wanted to place things, and then we went through with them, how robust does this need to be? Will there be livestock nearby? What sort of exclusion zones do we need? Gee, do you really want to put that thing up on that rocky hill? How am I going to dig a hole? Those sort of questions had to be asked and answered. And really the suppliers worked very hard and well with us to achieve the outcomes that we were looking for. So a health report is the next thing that we need to do, and over the next sort of probably 6 to 18 months, we'll look at all of these devices in their own right, get an understanding of how they all work, get some confidence that they are working as we need. And Carwoola Pastoral and MLA will give some feedback to installers, and installers will feed back to us with a view to MLA developing a best practice guide, so that anyone in the future that wants to try and do some install of this sort of stuff has a little bit more of a guiding light in front of them. So out of all of the installers, as I said this morning when people were at Carwoola Station, Sean and I looked at the way that everyone went about doing their installs, and we found that PowerTech Communications, in partnership with Advanced Communications from Riverina, probably installed the quickest and most efficiently. Their design was very robust, and they worked through any issues very quickly, and so we've given them the Best Installation Award for the install at this stage. So that's great. As Richard touched on earlier too, we need providers to work together. Sharing data is a massive thing. There's no point in me having 200 devices installed and having 55 apps or different platforms reporting to me. I need to have the ability to look at a single platform, preferably, that will report everything in the way that we need it to be reported, something that's meaningful to not just myself but the staff and the owners of the business, and then we can go from there. That's not to say that each product shouldn't have its own platform, because you may be purchasing those items in isolation. But the more that these people all work together, and I think that on the majority they're pretty keen to do that, the more flexible the products will be for us as businesses. There's a few little slides there of the different platforms that we're seeing from different providers, and that can be all amalgamated into the one platform to give us everything we need. The digital value proposition is an unknown to me personally at this stage. It's only been a very short time that we've had the installs. We will work towards putting some sort of return on investment figures to that where we can. Some of it may be fairly subjective, but we need to understand how all these things work first in its full capacity to make a clear judgment on that. A couple of very good installs that I've had a little bit of time to look at include the two there, which is the Water Watch system by Tussock through the Thinkstra network. That's basically reporting on dams and tanks and water systems around our properties. And the IDS Australasia GPS cattle tags, again, very interesting product, a lot of scope there for use in many ways. So what's really next for us is some understanding or better understanding and training in each of the installs that we've had so that we can use them to their full capacity. We'll get the dashboards and alerts sorted out into some meaningful situation. We wish to encourage solution providers to share their data, as I've said before, with each other. We need time to check on the robustness and reliability and accuracy of all the installs, and that will all obviously come with time. We will use the systems installed for decision making within the business. We're already doing that in a very small way, so that will be an ongoing and increasing level there. There'll be some things that we will make a judgment call that it's just not quite right for our business. It doesn't mean that it won't be for everybody else. So there will be some installations that probably will be taken from the program. And we're always very keen to have an ongoing discussion and relationship with existing and new providers as they come through. It's a good opportunity for anybody to jump onto these platforms that are being built today and get involved. So there's a lot of scope going forward. So last words from me really is simply that, invest in your business, invest in yourselves. This stuff is out there. Some of it's not there, but some of it is. Some of it is coming online. Support these suppliers. The more they're supported, the longer they will last, the better their gear will be, and hopefully everyone is able to run their businesses a little bit easier and potentially far more profitably. Thank you very much.
Go anywhere. All right, let's see if we've got that question thing working. And just while we're seeing if we get that working, have we got Ben and Andrew in the room?
Andrew and Fiona.
Andrew and Fiona. Well, Andrew and Fiona can come up. Have we got your lovely wife in the room?
No, she's not here.
That's all right. You can. And Rob and Bronwyn, have they turned up?
Not sure. I've got here yet. No.
So what we will do is a formal thanks to all of them who have helped us on this tour. So we're on this program, mate. So thank you very much. So. And you might have some questions. Oh, you have too. You can't go anywhere. So, thank you. Thank you, Fiona. And we'll give you the other bottles on the way out, if that's all right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's see how this works. Oh, that's probably one for me. What was the cost to fully set up Carwoola with all those sensors? We probably don't. I mean, I know the answer to that question, but it's probably unfair to say because we've got 20 solution providers all lumped into my budget. And what we did on purpose at Carwoola, for example, is we had 2 or 3 solution providers put their kit in on that one property so we could actually compare them against each other. I think if you were going to, if you went with FarmBot, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, that's just a tank sensor, and I don't know what Cameron's pricing is off the top of my head, but that's sort of in the $1,000 range or the $2,000 range. If you're going to put lots of sensors out, soil, weather, and you've got to put a communications tower up, you're sort of starting to talk around about the $10,000 or $20,000 installation costs. So something MLA will do as part of its case studies without divulging any commercial in confidence pricings is we'll start to release some of that information moving forward. Darren, I think this one's for you. Any insights into what the data showed?
Okay. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong question. Yeah. Look, we're seeing some small reporting on some sheep movement through an ear tag system. Interestingly, you can burrow down into that and see how many times a particular individual is drinking in a day, what time. You're also able to graph in certain aspects what part of the water source they're drinking from. So there's some interesting stuff going on there. with the cattle ear tags, we've seen some movement around from paddock to paddock as they've been moved. We haven't sort of really seen anything that hasn't moved, so that's probably a good thing. They are all still alive. But those are basically what we've seen so far, early days.
Yeah. So the next one I'll take, how far away is DNA testing? It already exists. It's existed for quite some time. MLA, approximately 15 years ago, proved that we could take a tail hair from a beef cattle at a knocking box, take those hair samples for 1 or 2 or 3 days production, and then take some beef trim at the end of a boning room and work out which animals actually ended up into that beef trim or into that mince. So that's not the problem. The technology exists. It's all about the commercial cost of doing that. So in Australia, we think at the moment for the uplift you get, it's not commercially viable. Now, that doesn't mean it won't be in the future. As Richard mentioned, there's a company in Ireland, both who's a supplier of this technology and also a processing house in Ireland that do this on every animal every day. But they've justified that value proposition a different way than the Australian industry is at the moment. So technically it exists. Feedback back to apps, feedback back to the cloud or back to the web. Just in Australia at the moment, it appears whatever the value chain thinks is the uplift in gain of doing that, the cost is still not down enough for that to be justified. How far are we off as producers being able to have full traceability of animals through abattoirs in order to take marketing of our beef? So obviously in beef we've got the NLS ear tag, so that's the very first thing you need. In sheep in Victoria they're starting that process. I guess you as producers, if you want to put on a management tag and talk to your processing house about will they give you some of that data back, I'm talking up to end of slaughter chain at the moment, then that's all doable now. Without doubt our limitations are once we get into that boning room, you've really got to change the way that those boning rooms run. And once again, what's that value proposition? So once again, technically, it is doable today. Commercially, the value proposition is just not quite there. Now, for those that saw me speak yesterday, we're doing a lot of work around automating the boning room area. The more and more we automate that process, the more and more traceability that we'll have. But once again, maybe DNA is the quick fix. Okay. Without doubt, I know the processing sector talk to us a lot about it. I'm sick of talking, mate. There's got to be one here for you.
Sure.
Oh, look at that.
Yep, so the devices, how did you find the devices intruded with day-to-day operations, or did they actually make operations smoother? There's been no intrusion. You know, one might see the installation process as being a bit of an intrusion and a pain to an individual, but you know, we've invited them there at the end of the day, as you would if you were installing. So that's not an intrusion at all. Yes, with the things that have been reporting so far, they've been very helpful to our business. You know, it saves me quite a bit of time in terms of water monitoring and checking, because I now have a confidence in that particular install to you know, save me a lot of time. I don't see them as an intrusion at all.
And Darren, I might get you to do the Tim Gentle one.
Sure.
And then there was one actually dropped off, which was something around the 3G. So I might do that one, and then we might pull it up stumps, if that's okay.
Yeah, so in terms of IoT tech on people tracking health, blah, 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 we've got some monitors in sheds and so forth, checking the humidity, temperature and so forth. The shearing shed's a good place to give you an example of that. So we're monitoring that. There was also talk of isolated employees tracking, which we haven't seen, but we have some rollover protection on quad bike. So there's stuff there. It's just a matter of finding what you need and seeking it out.
And I did have Andrew's farm keys for about a week and a half, which I just gave back to him the other day, and now I know exactly where he is all the time.
Excellent.
So
Good.
we just put a little mod in there for you. So
That's good.
yeah, which tells us whether he's sleeping or not as well.
Correct.
There was a 3G one there, so I'll just cover that. So FarmBot, you don't need 3G for a FarmBot to work. Okay, so that's the tank sensor, and it's got a rain gauge on it as well. The other thing is you will hear tomorrow afternoon other solution providers coming to the table talking about how they're getting connectivity and sensors into areas up north of Australia that don't have 3G or 4G coverage. So without doubt, It's a big problem for some parts of Australia, and I think you'll find the presentations on that tomorrow quite interesting. But bring your checkbooks, is all I can say. So it's not quite that bad. Anyway, Darren, once again, mate, thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
And look forward to the next few years ringing you up all the time.
Wonderful. Can't wait. Thank you.